Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Paper Princess, and today we're going to be making the base album for my Sweet Treats book. This is a 9.5 by 8.5 book. It's got a 3-inch spine, and I may save this tutorial for other books because it turned out it was just a really nice size to work with. It gives you a lot of room inside. It's not too big, not too small, and I may be using it more. So I will quickly go over what you need to get going. I'm using 90-point chipboard. It's a little thicker than medium, and I chose 8.5 by 11 because all you need to do is cut 1.5 inches off to make it 9.5 by 8.5. The 8.5 is already there. So if you don't have 8.5 by 11 and you have a 12 by 12 chipboard, what you need to do is face it where the board, when you bend it like this, it's stiff. If you have it facing the wrong way, it's kind of wobbly. This is a portrait sized book, so the 8.5 is across the top, the 9.5 is running vertically, and it feels stiff when you go try to bend it. So you need two pieces that are 9.5 by 8.5, and one piece that's 9.5 by 3. And that also is stiff when you go like that. So I'll set those aside. You're going to need some black cardstock. I am going to be using 80-pound cardstock in this book. If you have 60, that's a very common weight, and that should be fine. I just prefer this American Crafts because it has a linen side to it, and it's just a little thicker. So if you can get that, they do have subscriptions on Amazon where you can get this cardstock very inexpensively if you subscribe to it once a month and if you make a lot of books. They also do have one-time purchases also. So I am also going to be using score tape. I have 3/8 inch, which is I use probably the most often, 1/4 inch. And to make the base, I need, I'm using 2 inch. There's 2.5, there's 3 inch, just something, because you're going to be covering the entire chipboard, and it'll take you forever if you use the 3/8 inch. So get a nice thick roll, and you can use that. It lasts for several books. You'll have it a while. I'm also going to be using bookbinding tape. This is I also got it on Amazon. It's a 1.5 inch vinyl coated cotton cloth tape, and that's just for the edges, so when you're bending them a lot, the paper doesn't crack. So you can have that, and let's get started. We need 2 pieces of our 12 by 12 cardstock. And we're going to take one piece and score it at a 1/2 inch. So let's see, this paper tends to fold this way, so that's which way I'm gonna go. Kind of curls that way on its own. Okay, so 1/2 inch. Okay. And then I'm going to take my 3/8 inch score tape. I hold it like this, it gives me more control of it. And when you get to the end, you can either cut this with scissors, but I just made a tear tool out of a piece of plastic and a foam pop dot. So I'll put that at the end and just give it a quick tear. I have a bone folder here, and I'm going to press this down. Okay, so our next piece, we're just gonna place it on top, and we're gonna use this score line as a guide to make sure it's nice and even. So I think I'll go this way. Take off the backing. All right, so I'm gonna take this here and line up on one side first, just below that score line, and go right across There, and just press it down. I'm going to turn it over, and now the flat side is facing up, our nice textured side facing down, because that is going to be on the outside of our book. And what you're going to need also is, I use a piece of, if you have Tyvek material. If you don't, what I do is I go to the post office and I get one of their mailers. This plastic piece, if I put it right where my spine's going to be, it also just helps it when you're opening and closing the book so the paper doesn't crack. So you just need to take a little piece of that. And since this ran the whole length, I don't want it to run the whole length. I'm going to cut a little piece off. So let's see. That looks about right. Okay, so I'm going to save that. And what I want to do is I'm going to dry fit. So I'm going to place down my chipboard and lay this out and see where it's going to go approximately. Okay. What I did also is now I took the pieces that I cut off of the 9.5 and 2 pieces, and I taped them together because that's the amount of space you need in between your spine. You need about double the thickness of your chipboard. Okay, so it looks like I have just about an inch, okay, on each side. I have a little over an inch on each side. So I'm going to put a pencil mark at 1.25 inches. And I'll do that at the bottom, top, and in the middle. Okay. I'll put it this way so I can use it as a guide. Make sure I'm straight. So I got 1.25 inches. Okay. And make a line going down. Okay, now the bottom, let's see how much I have across the top and bottom. Probably very similar, let's see, 1.25 inches, 1.25 inches. So yeah, same thing. So what we'll do is I'm gonna make some marks at 1.25 inches. Over here, just go across. Okay. Then I'm going to connect all these lines. And this is going to make sure my chipboard is laying nice and straight so my paper doesn't look a little off when I go to fold this over and make the book. Okay. All right, there we go. Now our main thing is this intersection right here, because this is going to tell me where to put the chipboard, and the rest falls into place. Okay, now before we do that, we've got it all measured out. We have to cover all these pieces with score tape, and we have to cover our Tyvek with score tape. So let me get this piece out of the way for a minute, and let's get our score tape out and go ahead and start covering all these pieces. Now this, I'm going to use you have 1 inch or ½ inch. 1 inch would be perfect. Okay. Okay. Let's cover our front and back cover. We'll cover these with the score tape. If it hangs off a little at the end, that's okay, because we can trim that off. Actually, it's probably just too thick to tear. I'm gonna use scissors and cut this. Okay. Use my 3/8 inch just to cover this last little bit. You really need to cover as much as you can. Okay, let's flip this over and just trim off whatever's hanging off. So I'm happy with that, and I'm just gonna press it down with my bone folder. I have a Teflon bone folder here that I got at a stamp show a couple years ago, and I just love it. It's real easy. Yeah. I think they probably sell these online. Okay, let's do our back cover. I'm gonna just burnish the spine that I did over here. Okay, now for the back cover. I'll be needing that. Well, actually I need the big one for the Tyvek, so I'll leave that out. And 3/8 inch for this little bit left at the bottom. Okay, so let's press this down. Get all the air bubbles out. It'll stick nice to our paper. Go. Okay, so we're going to take our Tyvek, do the same thing, got to cover this. All right. Just one more piece over here. Okay. So this, we'll get as much as we can to cover this, and we'll see what's left over as we get to the bottom. Because there's not an exact measurement of how much you need. You just want your spine to fit on here and a little bit past the spine. So we've got 3 pieces of 2-inch tape, 6 inches. It should be, yeah. So this would be fine if you just did that. I'm going to probably just put another 1/2 inch, just give it a little extra just in case. All right. So let's press this down. And since we don't need this little bit that's left over, I'm just going to trim that off. Okay. All right, so let's bring back our cover here, and we have our little intersection right there on the left side of us. And let's again just lay this all out. So it would look like that. This piece right here. Okay. So I'm just going to trim another little piece right off the top. Okay. Looks good. Okay, so let's get putting this down. First thing we need to do is put down the Tyvek. So let's get that lined up to where we want it. Okay, and I'm gonna put a little pencil mark here where I want it to start. Okay. And let's take all this tape off. So I have a little tool from Creative Memories. It's an all-purpose tool is what they call it. And it just helps me lift off the tape here. And you can also use a Cricut, pick tool that you take your pieces off your Cricut mat. That works. If you have long fingernails, use those. I just like this tool a lot, so. Just as I praised it, it's giving me trouble. All right, hold on. Let me go to the other side. There we go. All right, so let's go to where we have our pencil mark and we'll lay this down. Okay, and I'll press it down here. Okay, now our first piece of chipboard. Let's take off all our tape. Okay. So now, and be very careful because you can always lift things off with undo, but that's a lot of tape. So let's just carefully put it right in the corner here. I'm going to be lifting up the end until I know I got it lined up. And then I'm going to gently let it fall. Okay, next will be our spine. all this tape off. Now what I have to do is take that little jig I made where I put 2 pieces of the chipboard, taped them together, and I'm going to put it right against the edge here. And then I'm going to take my spine, put it right next to, flush against that chipboard where it lines up with that pencil mark we have. We'll check the top there. It looks good. I'm going to place it down and lift up my spacer, and I have a nice little space right there. And now lastly, we will take all the backing off of our back cover. Take my spacer again, put it right up against there. As I'm putting this down, I have it at an angle so it doesn't accidentally stick before I'm ready. So I have it here, I'm pressing it up against this spacer so everything's going to be even. I look and it's right against that pencil mark on the bottom, and I'm just going to let it go. Press all this down. Okay, so now we're going to fold these over, but before we do, let's fold it, bend a little, get it used to, the paper's going to bend there. Bend it right here. Okay. Now, what we need to do is cut our corners, and I have this mitering tool. If you don't have one, that's okay. I will show you what to do. But basically, this is from colorwayarts.com, and it's a mitering tool with just like 1/8 of an inch right here. So basically you just put this in the corner and draw your pencil mark, and that's where you cut. If you don't have one, you can take a ruler and just leave yourself, I will measure it exactly for you. It winds up being 1/8 of an inch, which is 2 lines on it. If you have a regular pencil, it's 2 lines is 1/8 of an inch. So you just take your regular ruler, go 2 lines in, and put a little pencil mark here, and just go across like that. If you don't have that mitering tool, you can use your ruler. Since I make so many books, I just got one. It's like a couple dollars, I think. Okay. And then we will cut these. And then we're going to wrap our book. Okay. Now before we do this, we need to take our 3/8 inch tape and go across the bottom. Actually, and you could do this before you cut your corners if you want also. I'm gonna go all the way across the bottom, all the way around. Where's my tear tool? And then we're also going to put it on the chipboard, on the base, bottom of the chipboard and the top. So let's do our paper first. And let's put 3/8 across the bottom of all this chipboard. Actually, you can either cut it there, or I'm going to try going across. The top. And then I'm going to burnish this all down. All the little pieces that I went over a little bit. Okay. So let's get these another fold right here. We're gonna get ready to fold these over. Okay, so what we're gonna do is start at the bottom, and I will peel all this tape across the bottom and right here. Okay, and I'm going to start in the middle. So I'm going to take my hand in the middle and just kind of roll it up. So roll it up just like that, and then go across the bottom and just from the table and just go across your board. Okay. Press it down. Okay, I'm going to turn it over and do the same thing at the top. So I'll take off this tape. And start in the middle press it up. Press that down, especially right along the edge, and that'll give it a nice crisp, you know, line right there. Okay, right here I'm just going to gently take the edge of my folder and just so I can get the book used to being folded there. I don't want to press too hard, but give it a nice crease. Okay, now the next part, what we have to do, we can't just simply take off the backing and fold it over, or our corner will look a little messy. See what that would look like? What we need to do is press these corners in a little bit, the same way you do when you wrap a present. So I'm going to take my bone folder, go up into my corner, and kind of just press it in and wrap it around here. So there's nothing sticking out. There's no point that's sticking out. Just like that. And then you take off your square tape backing. Okay. And then I'm going to fold it over. And I don't necessarily have to start in the middle. I'm probably going to start at the corner right there. And just go right over. And I'll show you real quick that folding it gives you a nice crisp corner. There's no, see, there's no piece hanging out. If you somehow, if this corner doesn't look right to you, it's messed up, they sell metal corners that people often put on their books for just decoration, so you can always use that. But that looks good, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So I'm going to press this in right here. Okay. Just like a present. This piece of tape here got a little messed up, so I'm going to put another piece there. It got twisted around, so I'm going to take another piece. You can pretty much fix anything. So here we go. Let's fold this over. Looks good. Okay, now what I'm going to do is take my, before we put our hinge in, we have to get the hinge in, but I'm going to put this binding tape, and this is just an extra step. I like to do it. Okay, so what I do is take this, and I start around here. So I don't want to start up here because this part will stick out. When we have our pages in, you're going to see a little bit of the top and a little bit of the bottom. So I'm going to start a little bit down further and go right in the middle of where this crease is with the spine and our front cover. And I'm just going to press that down. Turn this over and just roll it across. Try to get it as straight as I can, lining it up with this line right there. Okay, come back over, line this up, and cut right there. There. And that way, see when it folds, it gives it a little, and on the on your book you'll have this nice corner here. So this is going to be opening and closing all the time, and this vinyl cloth-like material will help preserve your book longer than just if it was paper being bent constantly. So that's what I like to do, and we'll do it on the other side. Line that up. Okay, so that's that. The next step is putting in our hinge. So I'm using the hidden hinge system by Paper Phenomenon. Kathy King designed it and has a patent on it. I do not have the license to teach it, so what I can do is just refer you to her website, www.paperphenomenon.com. It's also out there. A lot of you have made this hinge before. It's on other tutorials online from people who have the license. Now I'm going to tell you what I'm going to use for the measurement. Let's see. So I cut a piece of paper of our, cardstock, our 80-pound cardstock, and I cut it 8 3/4 by 8 1/2. And then you make your score lines with the 8 1/2 inch side facing up. And when we come back, I'll have my hinge in here. You'll make yours. Again, look that up and learn how to make it. It's out there online, and I'm cutting my paper 8 3/4 by 8 1/2. See you soon.